Hi, welcome to another Scrapbook Express Lane video. Today's video is all about American Craft Zing embossing powders. I've got two projects today. The first uses embossing powder in a traditional stamping technique, and the second uses layered embossing powder to make a faux metal finish. The first project is the stamped treat bag topper. You can swap out the colors of the cardstock, the color of the embossing powder, and of course the theme of your stamps to match whatever little party or event you're matching up with. I'm making one for Halloween. I started by determining the size of the treat bag I wanted to use, and you can get these in a ton of different sizes. You can even get some printed bags. I just used clear bags here. I started with a label shape cut out of American Crafts cardstock. You can get this label shape a variety of ways. Electronic die cutters like the Cricut or the Quick Cut Silhouette do a great job with these, and they're especially good because you can resize the shape to any size you need. You can also use manual die cutting machines like the Quick Cuts Revolution. And if you don't have any of those machines, you can always use a piece of chipboard that happens to be a similar label shape. Trace it on the back, hand cut it, fold it in half, and you have your shape. Here's the one I'm using for the larger treat bag that I'm doing today. Remember, when you fold it, the folded edge is always going to be the top of your topper. And so when you stamp, you want to make sure that that's where it's placed when you orient your stamping so that you don't end up with some of your images upside down. For my stamping today, I'm going to be using the Distress Embossing Ink by Ranger. Embossing ink is formulated to stay wet and sticky long enough to grab onto the embossing powder you're going to add and give you a little bit of working time before you add your heat tool. On my example, I used a variety of stamps. Today I'm just going to use one for the speed of the video. Ink up your stamp and stamp your images wherever you like, adding pressure and lifting straight up. You can even see on camera how glossy and wet that looks. It's really juicy. It's ready to go. I'm going to add a second one here. Now, this particular image doesn't really matter if it's up or down, but if you have anything with words, certainly you're going to want to make sure that you orient your stamp correctly. And add another one here and one here. Once you have your images stamped, use the color of embossing powder that you like. In this case, I'm using the silver metallic finish. I like to keep a little disposable paper bowl nearby. Makes things go a lot faster. I simply dump the powder right over it and tap. And you'll notice it clings right on to wherever I've stamped, wherever that embossing ink is. Tap off the excess. Remember that these powders are reusable, so when you're finished, just take anything that you've tapped onto your scrap sheet of paper or a plastic container, or in this case my paper bowl, just put it right back into the container. If you have any little stray bits that manage to make it onto your project, you can use a dry paintbrush, just soft bristles like this, to gently brush off anything extra. You might notice that there's a little bit of a halo of the embossing powder around there. Sometimes just the static cling of paper, of any paper crafting item you're using, will attract that embossing powder. And don't worry, it usually blows off. There's usually not enough to hold on to it for the long-term project. Once you have it, make sure your embossing powder is out of the way, and then use your heat tool to heat up, melt your embossing powder. You'll watch it, you'll be able to see it get shiny and raised, and it'll finish. As you can see, there it is. Now, just for fun, I went back with a second stamped image. In this case, it was a little set of stars, and I stamped it in between my original set of stamped images. In this case, I wasn't so concerned about whether it went over the fold, whether it went off the edge. It really didn't matter to me. I just filled in the gaps wherever it looked like there was empty space with a little bit extra of those stars. Then in this case, I used the glitter embossing powder. I'm going to do it right on this scrap paper too this time. Here's the finished little tree topper. For the sake of the video, I embossed both colors of embossing powder separately so that you get a better feel for how it looks. You could stamp the first images, add the powder, put it away, then stamp these two and add a completely separate powder and put it away, and then heat emboss the entire thing. You don't actually need to heat emboss each color separately. You can do it all at once. The embossing ink is strong enough to hold on to that powder with plenty of time for you to emboss them all at the same time. And there's your fun little tree topper.